Welcome back, everybody, to the Baltimore Orioles franchise here on MLB The Show 21. Today, we are going to kick off our three-part finale to the series with MLB The Show 22 just 2 weeks away. It is time to wrap up the Orioles franchise here with our long-term simulation. Last episode, we won Game 7 of a World Series against the Atlanta Braves to win our second straight championship. And now that the bulk of this franchise is over, now it's time to simulate forward into the future and see what happens in the careers of all of our players. Find out how older guys like Lenny Ling ride into the sunset and younger guys like Louis St. John develop into superstars and hopefully Hall of Famers. We did a long-term simulation in the Pirates franchise last year in MLB The Show 20, and I had an absolute blast doing it. And I think here with MLB The Show 21, with this Orioles core, might be even funner and a great way to cap off what has been an amazing series thus far as we head towards MLB The Show 22. We're going to get through 5 full seasons today. So seasons 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 will all be in today's video. Obviously, I could spend hours going through each season, but we just don't have the time here, so I'm going to try to be able to go through it pretty quickly, but also show enough to where you guys really feel like you're part of the season and invested in it. I'm excited to see how this core progresses, how the older guys finish their careers. We're going to see older guys like Shane Bieber, Nick Castellanos, and Lenny Ling possibly retire today, and we're hopefully going to see young guys like Louis St. John, Xavier Bowman, and Shane Kovaleski turn into superstars. Obviously, we are going to stick with the Orioles. No questions there as we move into the retirement stage of the offseason. No Lenny Ling. He is now 41 years old. I wouldn't be surprised if Lenny Ling sticks around for a while. In the Pirates long-term simulation, I kept starting our old guys to, try to get them as many hits and home runs as possible. Some of those guys ended up playing until they were like 50. So this long-term simulation might be longer than you guys think. Here in the first offseason, we have a ton of guys who are free agents and a lot of tough decisions here with our money. I'm going to try to bring back Jacob deGrom along with Amir Garrett. I think they're both very good pitchers for us. We're going to let everybody else go, unfortunately, including multiple 90 overall pitchers. Edwin Diaz, Kris Bubic, and Brusdar Graterol have all been major pieces to our championship teams, specifically Edwin Diaz, who made 4 All-Star appearances with us, but those guys just want so much money, and we have so many young guys who are eventually going to need to get paid, so we have to be smart here, as well with Tristan McKenzie and Nick Castellanos, 2 more pieces of our core, and then Ryan Mountcastle, too, didn't get as much playing time this past season, one of the OG Orioles. We're going to let all of those guys go. Maybe we'll try to bring some of them back in free agency, but I really want to be smart with our money because it will quickly run out. For our manager, I want to bring back Carlos Feebles. He's been the guy since almost the start of this series, but unfortunately, he's decided to be the Rangers hitting coach. Why? I don't know. You could be the manager of the 2-time World Series champions, or you could be the hitting coach of a very below-average baseball team, but you do you, Carlos. So Ronnie Newberry instead will be our new manager. His ratings are actually a little bit higher, so I guess that's not totally the end of the world. We only have $96 million currently tied up into players, but again, I don't want to spend too much. We have a ton of young players in the farm system who I'm totally okay with being major leaguers next season, and we have a lot of young guys who are going to need to get paid. However, I do want to bring back Kris Bubic now that I think about it, and Jacob deGrom still has not accepted. Amir Garrett has. But looking at our starting rotation, we only have 2 guys who currently were major league starters. We're going to try to bring back Bubic and deGrom, but we're going to need younger guys like Matthew Thompson and Hans Kraus to really progress for us as we take a look at some of the signings around the league, mainly looking for players in our division or possibly former Orioles, such as Edwin Diaz, who's getting $108 million from the Nationals. Shout out to Edwin. Get your bag. I wouldn't have paid him that. That's a lot of money for a reliever, but I'm happy he got paid a big chunk of change from the Washington Nationals, so hopefully he ends up doing pretty well there. Ronald Acuna is a Diamondback, and Arizona made the NLCS last year, so I wouldn't be surprised if they go even farther in the playoffs with the best player now in the National League. Moving forward, still not a ton of our guys have signed. We did get Bubic and deGrom officially to return, but other than that, all those former Orioles, other than Diaz, have not signed anywhere. And right as I say that, Brusdar Graterol signs a 5-year deal to return to the Dodgers, where he started his career. So Graterol was back in LA after a couple seasons with Baltimore. Again, I think that's a lot of money for a reliever considering we have plenty, but good for Graterol to get his money, and hopefully he does well with the Dodgers. Ketel Marte to the Braves. That's a pretty big deal. Atlanta replaces Ronald Acuna, so it looks like the Braves are still going to be pretty solid. Randy Arozarena stays in our division. He's now played for the Rays, the Blue Jays, and the Yankees. He almost has the full AL East except for us in Boston. Moving forward now, we still have a couple guys left, I believe, who haven't signed anywhere. Nick Castellanos, I believe, still has a job, as well as a couple of other players, too. Looking at the Rule 5 draft, I actually do want to pick somebody. Outfielder Chris Villalobos. He's young. He's pretty talented. I wanted to draft him a couple years ago in the first round, but the Braves ended up stealing him from us. So now we actually get him, and he will be on the Major League roster this season. I needed a backup catcher, so we're going to acquire Jesus Jaquez from the Toronto Blue Jays in exchange for a couple of pitching prospects. And that's how we're going to get to spring training. I told you guys the off-seasons are going to be fast. We do have some tough financial decisions to make. I've been wanting to pay Adley Rutschman for a while now. I think we're finally going to hand out the Brinks trucks for him. 3 years, $93 million. He accepts. I've been wanting to get a contract extension with him for years, so I'm happy we finally got it done. And then Elliot Ramos. I know he hasn't been the most consistent, but he was fantastic in our previous playoff run, and he had a great season last year. He has 2 more years of team control, but we're going to offer him a 6-year deal for $69 million. Nice. The contract will be front-loaded, meaning that he's going to take on more money at the beginning, which will save us budget space towards the end. We're also going to give Lenny Ling a 14-year deal, pretty much a lifetime contract to stick around. Do I think he'll play out the full 14 years? Probably not, but I could see him being here longer than expected. So this is what the starting lineup will look like here for season number 7. For the most part, not a ton of changes, at least for the batting lineup. We didn't lose any of our offensive starters other than Nick Castellanos. The pitching is a little bit different. No more Tristan McKenzie, no more Edwin Diaz, no more Brusdar Graterol. This is hopefully the year where Matthew Thompson can finally figure it out, because I have had high hopes for him for a while, and he just hasn't really developed yet. As for the bullpen, we drafted Julian Starnes to be our closer. Now that Edwin Diaz is gone, he finally gets that shot to be our closer. So we're going to simulate up to the draft. We're going to simulate in increments to where we stop like 3 times a season, just so it's not like from right to the beginning to right to the end. Here at the draft, we're doing pretty well so far at 35-20. Elliot Ramos and Nick Castellanos have been struggling, but we do have some of the young guys like Kovaleski, Luciano, and Sixto who are playing pretty well. And Louis St. John is back to MVP form. He's hitting like .330 or something with 16 home runs. The pitching has been very good up to this point. So overall, it's been a pretty good start to the season. Looking at our draft, we ended up doing pretty solid, specifically getting an 89 potential second baseman in Dominique Irizarry. Now at the All-Star break, we went on a tear in the month of June, but we're not winning the division. The Yankees are a game and a half ahead of us as we take a look at the All-Star teams. Will Brooks and Cosmo Cruz both make it out of a bullpen for us, so that's 2. Still only 2, not a ton of our offensive starters, but we did get Louis St. John in there, who has cooled off a little bit, but is still playing at a very high level. And then in the National League, I'm mainly looking for former Orioles, and sure enough, there's Edwin Diaz at the top of the relievers list for his 5th straight All-Star appearance. Good to see him continuing to play well with the Washington Nationals. And look at Aristides Aquino. Remember when he was on the team back in like seasons 1 and 2? Well, ever since he left us, he has been balling out. At the trade deadline, we're still 1.5 games behind the Yankees, so I wanted to go ahead and make a big move. We're going to acquire first baseman Bobby Bradley from the Detroit Tigers. Bradley is having a career year this season at OPS at around 850. I think he'll give us some much-needed pop into the lineup, and we didn't have to give up any crazy prospects to do so. Sure enough, that was enough to win us the division. We go 99-63, which gets us first place, 5 games ahead of the New York Yankees, so we end up as the 2 seed in the AL. Not quite the best record. The Angels, I believe, won 106 games, but still a very strong season for us. As we take a look at some of our awards, we were able to get quite a few. None of the big ones, however, as Yordan Alvarez ended up winning MVP. Louis St. John still had a great season, hitting .291, 34 home runs, over 100 RBIs. We had a lot of our guys who were struggling, like Kerstead, and to an extent, Elliot Ramos played better down the stretch, and then the pitching was fantastic. All of our starters were really solid. Matthew Thompson wasn't great, but he certainly wasn't a liability or anything, and then the bullpen was very solid too. Unfortunately, we will be without Amir Garrett for the start of the playoffs and Hideki Asuncion for the entire playoffs, so that's 2 relievers who we will not have. Looking at this White Sox team, they're a talented group, good rotation, led by shortstop Carlos Correa, who they acquired in a trade a couple years ago from Cleveland, as we lose Game 1, win Game 2, and then we finish off the job in 4. So that takes us to the ALCS against the Angels, a team we beat in the playoffs a couple years ago. They still have Mike Trout, who's 35 years old and starting to regress, but this team is still absolutely loaded. They are the favorites over us as we split the first 2 games, win Game 3, lose Game 4, then we take home Game 5, and we lose Game 6. So that brings us to Game 7. For every elimination game, I think I'm going to simcast it just to add to the suspense. Shane Bieber on the mound against Luis Castillo as Lenny Lane hits a grand slam in the 5th inning. That'll put us ahead 5-1, and from there, I don't think we're going to look back. 6 great innings from Shane Bieber, who's continuing to take away from the playoff struggles narrative that he has been given throughout his early seasons in Baltimore. Julian Starnes struggling here. He has the bases loaded with 2 away. Mike Trout is up with an opportunity for a walk-off grand slam to send the Angels to the World Series. He is unsuccessful. Kris Bubic, of all people, gets the save. So we're back in the World Series for a 3rd straight season, but not against Atlanta. This time, it's the Diamondbacks, led by Ronald Acuna and Gleyber Torres, who finished in the top 2 in the NL MVP. So it's going to be a challenge as we win Game 1, we win Game 2, we win Game 3, lose 4, but we win 5. So a gentleman's sweep over the Arizona Diamondbacks, as our Baltimore Orioles have now won 3 straight World Series. Bobby Bradley, the playoff MVP, Xavier Edwards, the World Series MVP. So clearly the Bobby Bradley pickup was a very good one for us as we look at our final postseason stats. Bradley gave us the pop we needed in the lineup and was our best hitter in the postseason. He is a free agent, I believe, at the end of next season, so we have 1 more year of team control on him. I didn't want to trade for somebody who was on a super big contract, so that was why we ended up picking Bradley, and obviously it worked out. So this season is pretty much how the long-term sim is going to go. I'm going to try to go a little bit faster, just because that first season I wanted to go a little bit slower since it was year 1 of the long-term sim. So we're going to speed it up a little bit here in the retirement stage. No Hall of Famers, nobody retiring from our organization. So it looks like Lenny Lane is going to be sticking around. We do have a couple team options here for Kris Bubic and Keston Hiura. 2 no-brainers, in my opinion. We're definitely going to bring these 2 players back. They have been fantastic for us, along with Amir Garrett. So Bobby Bradley was actually a free agent this season. I don't know why I thought he was next season, but I apologize there. I do want to bring him back for sure, though. We're going to offer him a 2-year deal for about $24 million total. I also wanted to re-sign Alec Bettinger as well. He's a good reliever for us. Ian Happ, we're going to let go. We have a ton of guys in the outfield who are young prospects, and then Jacob deGrom, he has started to regress quite a bit, so we will let him hit the open market as well. Kris Bubic had a team and player option. He accepted his half of the player option. Keston Hiura did as well. So both of them will officially be sticking around, along with Amir Garrett too. This free agency class, as you can see, is absolutely loaded with talent. A lot of elite players in this class. I did decide to go after a big name. Relief pitcher Benito Rosario from the Giants. He's only 24 years old. He is an absolute stud. Julian Starnes had an okay season for us as the closer, but I really don't feel like he is actually built to be the closer. I think he's more of a middle reliever guy, so we're going to go after Benito Rosario, and we do sign him. 4 years, $76 million. I know it's a lot, but he's young, and he's really good. Corey Lee to the Diamondbacks. Dear God, that team is going to be good. At least the Astros get worse, but still, Arizona has Corey Lee, Ronald Acuna, Gleyber Torres, Aaron Judge. They are stacked. I really don't want to face off against them in the World Series because, well, they kind of scare me. As we continue to move along here, C.J. Abrams to the Angels. The Padres, however, use that money to get Luis Severino. We did not have a ton of guys from our organization leave, as Spencer Torkelson is an Angel, so the 106-win LA Angels somehow get way better. But as I was trying to say, we did not have, holy cow, look at that contract for Aquino, $30 million a year. But as I was really interrupted by that shocking deal from Aquino, we did not have a whole lot of guys in our organization who were free agents and left, so that's why we're going to look pretty similar next season. We are going to make a trade here at the Marlins, getting a really good pitching prospect in Justin Martins. He's 22 years old and 80 overall with A potential. He is a stud, so hopefully he can be a top-end starter for us as the Astros go out and get Francisco Lindor from the Mets. That's not good, because one of the best teams in the AL just added one of the best players in the major leagues. So Houston, I think, overall has gotten better this offseason despite losing Corey Lee. The Angels have gotten better, which is not good. But White Sox have made a lot of signings. They've gotten better. Hey, there's John Means, the former Oriole. He is going to be a Yankee next year. Ew, I don't like that. As we continue to move forward, Toronto makes a signing there with Tyler Callahan. As the AL East continues to get better, but Jason Dominguez is gone. He is an Athletic, so that's good. Ian Happ signs a 2-year deal with the Cincinnati Reds. Hopefully he does well there, only with our organization for a little bit. As, look at this trade. Noah Syndergaard just got traded from the Red Sox to the Marlins for a 71 overall, who's 35 years old. MLB The Show trade logic never ceases to amaze me. Thank God they're fixing that in MLB The Show 22. I don't know if you guys heard, but yesterday in their little franchise deep dive, it sounds like the trade system is going to be a lot better. So unfortunately, we've ran out of money pretty much. We were able to bring back Xavier Edwards, thankfully, but we are now under budget with $206 million on the books. I told you guys, we need to watch out for how we're going to manage our money. We need to be a little bit smarter. So we're going to trade away some contracts here, specifically Amir Garrett. It hurts to trade away Garrett because he's been a really fun player for us, but that's $11 million. That's a lot of money. We're going to acquire a ridiculously good third base prospect in Estevan Salas from the Cleveland Guardians, I guess, as we take a look at our lineups here for season number 8. As you can tell, it's kind of hard to keep things realistic here at the long-term sim because we're so far in the future and all these teams are like super juiced in talent. So if the trades and whatnot are kind of unrealistic, that's why. I did my best to not abuse the system and just go out and trade all of our expiring contracts for prospects, but I also want to be able to keep the team good and keep the team within budget while keeping our core intact for as long as possible. So we're going to simulate here up to the MLB draft. We are 30-18, doing very well up to this point. The big storyline has been the pitching. So other than Matthew Thompson, pretty much everybody is killing it. Hans Krause has been fantastic. Bieber and Bubic at the top of the rotation are doing great. And then Benito Rosario in 22 innings has not allowed a single run. Yeah, he's pretty good. I told you guys he was nice. As we look at our draft, we ended up with 4 B potential players, including a really good starting pitcher late in Darren Reyes. So overall, a pretty good draft for us there as we now simulate up to All-Star Week. We were a little bit shaky in June, but we're still 52-38, about half a game ahead of the Yankees as we look at the All-Star teams. Chris Bubic makes it once again along with Benito Rosario, so we had 2 pitchers get in. Keston Hiura is back as a starter once again. Louis St. John is an all-star along with former Oriole Willie Calhoun. That's an interesting one. He has not been on the team for a while. Now in the NL, no Edwin Diaz for the first time in like forever. Other than that, not a whole lot of former Orioles. There was Ian Happ there at center field with Cincinnati along with Liam Bumaye. I have not seen that name in quite a while. Good to see he's doing well in Milwaukee. So we're 58-42 at the deadline, 2 games ahead of the Yankees. I could have made a move if I wanted to, but I decided not to. I think we're going to keep the team intact. Hopefully it's enough to win us the division. We are going to make some moves with contract extensions, however. Max Meyer is a free agent after next season. I don't want to get rid of him. He has shown after a slow start to his career that he can be an ace, so we're going to bring him back along with Will Brooks, Julian Starnes, and then I also re-signed Cosmo Cruz. I want to keep the bullpen intact. These 4 pitchers have been here for a while, and I don't want them going anywhere. Xavier Bowman and Shane Kovaleski are 2 pieces of the core, so we're going to re-sign them until pretty much they become free agents. Bowman a little bit longer until he would have became a free agent. Now, simming to the end of the season, we did end up doing well enough to win the division at 95-67, which is 5 games ahead of the Yankees, and it was actually good enough to get the #1 seed in the American League. We had the 2nd best record in baseball this season, only behind the Diamondbacks, as we take a look at some of our awards. Yordan Alvarez has won 3 straight MVPs. Unfortunately, Louis St. John finished in 3rd behind Alvarez and Eloy Jimenez. There are so many great left fielders in the American League. I mean, you got those 3 at the top of the MVP race, along with Juan Soto, Jesse Winker. I mean, the left field position is just loaded. I don't know how all these players are able to make the All-Star team year in and year out. But overall, I think the team's in a good spot here going into the postseason. The bullpen's numbers are a little bit shaky, but the starting rotation's doing well. The lineup is doing well. Xavier Bowman is injured with a fractured forearm. He really has not played all that well here through the first 2 seasons. He's kind of like Byron Buxton, obviously a high draft pick, a really good prospect, great defender. Hasn't really figured it out on offense yet, but I did extend him for 5 years. I do have faith that he will, but it is worth noting that he has been pretty disappointing so far. So our first round matchup here is against the Detroit Tigers, a pretty solid team here, as we would take the first 2 games, we lose 3, and then we win game 4. So we beat them in 5, and now we're going to have a rematch here at the White Sox, but this time in the ALCS, as we lose the first 2 games, but then we would win 3 in a row in Chicago. We lose game 6-0, so that brings us to a game 7. Both offenses come out the gate on fire in that first inning, but now both pitchers are starting to pitch a little bit better. It is Shane Bieber starting for us. He would end up going 6 innings. Still no runs since the first inning of this game. We're now in the 8th. We would then score 2 in the bottom half of the inning, so now Benito Rosario's in for the save. He finishes off the job. So the Orioles are going back to the World Series for a 4th straight season, but against a new opponent, the Philadelphia Phillies, who have completely brought out the Brinks trucks here throughout this entire series. They've signed Cody Bellinger, Shohei Ohtani, Ozzie Albies, Pete Alonso. They are loaded. It is worth noting that Xavier Bowman is now back healthy as well, as we're doing pretty solid early, now tied at 2. We win game 5. We lose game 6, so we've got another game 7. Shohei Ohtani on the mound for Philadelphia against Matthew Thompson. This is Thompson's opportunity to show why we invested so much into him back in our very first trade deadline of the series, as we scored 5 in the 4th inning. We are cruising right now up 7-2 as Thompson's day is done after 5 pretty strong innings. It looks like we're in a good spot. Julian Starnes does allow 2 runs, but all we need here is the back end of the bullpen to finish off the job. Benito Rosario in for the save. He finishes it off. And the Orioles have won our 4th straight World Series. Another close one. We needed 7 games once again, as Xavier Edwards wins his 2nd straight World Series MVP. Luis St. John wins the postseason MVP, followed by Bradley and Elliot Ramos. Luis St. John was really, really good in the postseason. Kovaleski was great, even though he was not in the top 3 for whatever reason. He hit like 340. The pitching was a little bit on and off. We had our really good starters kind of struggle, but Matthew Thompson was probably our best pitcher in the playoffs. So shout out to him for finally realizing his full potential. I also want to let you guys know that Luis St. John is officially a full-on 99 overall. So that's pretty cool. He has had 2 very good seasons here in the long-term sim, and he's not showing any signs of slowing down as he enters his age 25 season. No retirements from us, no Hall of Famers. We have 2 big free agents, Kris Bubic and Keston Hiura. And this is where we have to save our money. Both of these players are fantastic. Both of them are also really expensive. We don't have a lot of money. We do have plenty of depth at both of those positions in the organization, so I've decided to let them both walk. Shane Bieber at a player option. He is coming back for $31 million. Alec Bettinger is back for $3 million. However, Bobby Bradley declined his player option, so he is now a free agent. I don't think we can afford to let him go, so we're going to give him a deal for $13.5 million, which is a little bit more money than he was making last year, but not really that much of a difference, only by like $1 million or $2 as we go into free agency. Bradley has not yet accepted his contract. Keston Hiura and Kris Bubic are amongst the top players in the classes. We're going to re-offer Bradley more money. I don't want to let him go. Thankfully, he would end up accepting as we simulate through free agency. Kris Bubic is a Yankee. 10 years, $310 million. That's a lot of money for a 31-year-old pitcher, but hopefully he does well, but not too well because it's the Yankees. Keston Hiura signed a 7-year deal with the Cincinnati Reds for about $144 million, so he returns to the NL Central. Hopefully both Hiura and Bubic do well, although again, Bubic hopefully won't do too well considering he is on a divisional rival. Mackenzie Gore to the Dodgers, that's kind of a big deal, leaving the Padres for LA, staying in Southern California. As we continue to simulate forward, no other Orioles were free agents other than those 2 players, so we're not going to lose anybody else who's overly big, but it is interesting to see how the rest of the league continues to change its landscape. All the contenders in the American League, and I guess the Diamondbacks, didn't really add anybody new, which is a good thing. We want those teams to not get better, just so we can continue to keep our dynasty going. The most amount of World Series wins in a row by one team is 5 by the Yankees back in like the 40s and 50s. So we have a chance to tie that this season if we have currently won 4 in a row. Franmil Reyes to the Rockies. Dear God, that sounds terrifying with Coors Field. Liam Bumaye is a Ranger. Again, the former Oriole. Good to see him continuing to play pretty well as a major leaguer even without us. Noelvi Marte to the Rays. There's your Wander Franco replacement. I believe Wander Franco signed with the Yankees. So, yeah, Rays fans, cringe. I'm not going to show you guys Wander in a Yankees jersey because I know you would not like that. As we continue to move forward, a lot of the cheaper guys are now off the market. The Astros signed Ian Ordonez from New York, so I guess Houston does make a move to get better, which is kind of unfortunate. And that pretty much concludes the offseason as we get to Season 9 in this franchise, in the third season today, and we're going to start the trade. Marco Luciano is on the final year of his deal. It just hasn't worked out. We're not going to pay him big money. We're going to trade him to Cleveland for a couple of prospects. He never really panned out into the star that I hoped he would, as we make a pretty big trade here with the A's. Emmanuel Cervantes, who just has not developed at all, really, and Chris Villalobos are going to Oakland for Jonathan Quesada. He's a starting pitcher, and he throws gas. We're going to make some contract extensions. Quesada re-signs, Mohamed Mauer, Xavier Edwards. They are all back on longer-term deals as we look at the lineup. Starting to look quite a bit different. Younger guys like Xavier Edwards, Shane Kovaleski, and Manny Miranda are now pretty much everyday players. As for the pitching rotation, it'll be Bieber, Thompson, Kraus, Meyer, and Quesada. So already only 2 starters left from Season 6. Bieber and Meyer are still here. The bullpen pretty much the same as last year. So we're going to simulate up to draft day. Hopefully we can continue our strong season. Look at this. Shed Long, the former Oriole, gets traded back to Seattle. It all goes full circle. Shed Long is still a pretty good player, which I like to see. So we are doing pretty well here at the draft. No surprise as we look at our draft class. Another 89 potential pitcher in Grant Loftus. He's a 69 overall. Nice. Probably our best draft pick of the video so far. It is worth noting that the pitching rotation, other than Jonathan Quesada, has been pretty bad. Everybody's ERA is at least in the 4s, except for Quesada, who's never had an ERA lower than 4, other than this year. We're now 57-33 here at the All-Star break. Chris Bubich makes it with the Yankees. That's cool. Benito Rosario and Julian Starnes are both All-Stars. Starnes for the first time in his career. They are joined by Adley Rutschman, Bobby Bradley, Louis St. John as well, who is still raking this year. And then as for the NL, Edwin Diaz is back along with Felix Rosa with the Giants. Okay, that's an interesting one. Another former Oriole. Good to see him continuing to pitch well. Keston Hiura would end up making it as well. So from our Season 1 draft class, we had 3 players in this year's All-Star game. Louis St. John, Julian Starnes, and Felix Rosa. There's the Wander Franco trade. He originally went from Boston to the Yankees. So he has now played for 3 AL East teams. That's kind of wild. Now we're going to simulate to the end of the season. We're not going to make any moves here at the trade deadline. Unfortunately, Lenny Ling got injured in September. His season is done. He's a 68 overall. He has declined fast, but he is still hitting the ball pretty well. We went 98-64, which is good enough for the top seed in the AL. Louis St. John did not win MVP. He was second behind Yordan Alvarez. Jonathan Quesada finished in third and ended up winning the Cy Young. In the National League, Keston Hiura with 50 home runs ended up winning the MVP, so that's pretty cool. As we take a look at the stats, St. John with 46 more dingers. The lineup was fantastic, as you can see by the numbers. Everybody hit the ball well. Our lineup is cruising going into the playoffs. The pitching, not so much. We do have some of our starters who were pitching a little bit better, and obviously Quesada won the Cy Young. The bullpen was great, so really, if the starting rotation can stay consistent, I think we can win 5 in a row. It's the Mariners who we're going to face off here in the first round. We have not seen a ton of Seattle in this series, but they are a good team. They still have Shed Long, who only hit .226 this year, as we would win the first game, but Shane Kovaleski gets hurt and is out for the year. That's not good. We win Game 2, lose Game 3, win Game 4. So we're now in the ALCS against another different team, the Kansas City Royals, who we also haven't really seen. They have a pretty solid starting rotation at the top. They have a decent enough lineup as well, but they're no match for us. Bring out the brooms. We're going to sweep them, and we will face off against, wait for it, the Diamondbacks in the World Series. They beat the Phillies in the NLCS. The Diamondbacks of Corey Lee, Ronald Acuna, Gleyber Torres, maybe the 3 best players in the National League. I am terrified. We do win Game 1, though. Then we win Game 2 by the same score. We win Game 3, and we win Game 4. So we sweep the Diamondbacks, and we have won our record-tying 5th straight World Series. Is it fair to call us a dynasty? Xavier Bowman wins playoff MVP, and Xavier Edwards wins his 3rd straight World Series MVP. In the 3 seasons we've done today, Xavier Edwards has won the World Series MVP every single season. That's pretty remarkable. In those first 2 seasons, he wasn't even an everyday player. Once we traded Marco Luciano at the beginning of the season, this was Edwards' first year as an everyday starter, yet he's still winning World Series MVPs left and right. Overall, a great postseason for us as we only lost 1 game that entire playoff run, which is just remarkable. That team just felt different. I think this year's World Series team was the best of this long-term sim so far. We do have a retirement. It's not Lenny Lang. It's Jeff MacArthur, who never played a game in the big leagues. It is crazy to see a lot of our former guys starting to retire. Corbin Burns, Eliezer Hernandez, who's back in Miami, Anthony Rizzo, Framber Valdez, Jacob deGrom even. It's so weird seeing all these guys go. Even Kermit the Frog is calling it a career. Jose Altuve, bang, bang, is a Hall of Famer. So now going into season 4 of the video, we have 2 more left to go. This is the 10th season overall. We do have 3 free agents, including Heston Kjerstad, who has had a very rocky career, but throughout the long-term sim, he's been very consistent. And throughout this series, he's been very inconsistent, so it's kind of weird. We're going to let him go, though. He's asking for about $20 million, and we have a ton of talent in the outfield. As for Bettinger and Bieber, they're both kind of older, so I'm going to let them walk as well. Shane Bieber's Oriole career is done. 5 years as our ace. He did everything we had hoped for, except for early struggles in the playoffs. But Bieber won 5 World Series each year of his contract. Bobby Bradley declined another player option, so it looks like we have to re-sign him once more for even more money. I still don't want to let him go because I think he's really, really good. As we look at the free agency class, a little bit weaker than previous years, but there are a number of good players there, headlined by our former outfielder, Heston Kjerstad, who's going to hit the open market and join a new team. I noticed a couple of our other former players were in there. Ian Happ, for an example, is back on the market, so he will likely join a new team this offseason after spending the past 2 seasons in Cincinnati. No sign of Heston Kjerstad yet. He has not signed anywhere up to this point. There you go. He's a Met. 5 years, just under $100 million. The Mets are pretty bad, but he's going to be their star player. So hopefully he does well there. I'll definitely be pulling for him. As we continue to sim forward, some more signings around the league. Not many former of our players, though, as it looks like Ian Happ has not really gotten a job. The Diamondbacks sign Austin Jackson because apparently budget limits are a myth. I don't know how they have enough money to sign all these people, but they just keep getting better, which is just crazy. The Padres have signed like 20 guys this offseason, it feels like. Matthias Hundertwasser, former Oriole, traded from the Yankees to the Mets. He has been bouncing around on a bunch of different teams. I know he was on Philadelphia at one point, so that's at least his 4th team. Moving forward now, Ian Anderson is a Red Sox. We have history with Ian Anderson. He pitched Game 7 of the last episode with the Braves, which we obviously won, and he didn't do all that well. Julio Lantigua, the guy we almost drafted over Louis St. John, is a Marlin on a very cheap deal. Cleveland traded away one of their really good young players for old players and just a whole lot of nothing. I don't really know why Cleveland would do that. As we continue to simulate forward, Mukamuda Balgawi, the highest rated free agent in the entire class, signs with Milwaukee very late into the offseason. Nobody wanted to give him a big deal. There's Ian Happ. He signs for cheap in Boston as we take a look at the lineup here for season number 10 overall of the series, season number 4 today. Again, the lineup hasn't really changed a whole lot. The pitching rotation no longer has Shane Bieber, so now Justin Martins will take his spot. But other than that, the team, for the most part, looks pretty similar. So we're going to simulate up to the draft. I noticed that DL Hall is the opening day starter for Tampa Bay, another one of our former guys. We are 39-15, just killing it right now. Xavier Bowman is dominating. He has finally figured it out. Louis St. John is hitting .350 with 21 home runs and an OPS at nearly 1,200 through 2 months of the year. That is incredible. St. John is having his best year yet, even better than his MVP season. Unsurprisingly, he is the heavy favorite for the award at the moment, which I don't see anybody really dethroning him. As we look at our draft, a common theme has been struggling on our early picks and then dominating with our later picks. We got a great reliever in John Spain, who's a 74 with 88 potential in the middle of the draft, as we're going to simulate here to All-Star Week, and we are continuing our dominance, 64-25. This is by far the best team we've had in this entire series so far. Max Meyer is an All-Star along with Benito Rosario and Julian Starnes. That's not our Will Brooks, it's the other Will Brooks. Adley Rutschman is back once again. And then obviously we had Louis St. John, who at the All-Star break is hitting .353 with 34 home runs and 104 RBIs. He could tear his knee during the All-Star game and probably still win the MVP. That's how good he has been. Just a historic season here from our star player. Xavier Bowman makes his first All-Star team. That's pretty cool as well. Then as we look at the National League, Felix Rosa is back, along with Hideki Asuncion. 2 of our former relievers make it. That's pretty cool. Good to see our super young bullpen talent who we've developed throughout this series all really coming together. 4 of our young relievers were all-stars this season. We do have some more decisions when it comes to contracts. Adley Rutschman needs a new deal. I know it seems like we just re-signed him like 15 minutes ago. That's because we did, but it was only for like 3 years, so we're going to bring him back for another short-term deal. We've got a tough decision here with Carmen Sixto. He wants a lot of money, and I just don't think he's worth it. I feel like he'd be better off in another situation where he can be an everyday player and really become a good offensive star. He just hasn't really gotten that shot with us. I think he'd be better off on a team like the Minnesota Twins. So we're going to trade him and a couple of prospects for some better prospects, most notably an potential shortstop in Owen Garcia. So we are 70-30 at the deadline. That's a 70% winning percentage. That is historically good. Going to simulate to the end of the season. I assume no funny business, and indeed we win 108 games. Max Meyer wins the Cy Young. Louis St. John wins the MVP. St. John's average went down to 324. Wow, that really stunk the second half of the year. 56 home runs, 149 RBIs, both of which are career highs. Just look at his career stats. He's 26 years old, and he is really on pace to put up some ridiculous numbers. Jonathan Quezada finished third in Cy Young, despite his ERA being damn near 5. Bobby Bradley only hit .238, despite being second for the MVP. So Bradley hitting under .250 and Quezada having an ERA of 5 apparently gets you in the top 3 for the MVP and Cy Young. I feel like the game is being a little bit biased towards us just because we've been so good for so many years, which I don't mind, but that seems a little bit ridiculous. Bradley at least hit for a lot of power, but Quezada just doesn't really make sense because he was arguably our worst starting pitcher this season. So the wild card team is the Toronto Blue Jays. We have not seen them in the playoffs for a couple years, but they are back. They are still led by Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who is still really, really good at hitting the baseball. We win Game 1, we lose Game 2, we then lose Game 3. We are in danger here in the ALDS, so we're going to simcast Game 4 with Han Kraus on the mound. We started off poor, but in the past couple of innings, we're really playing well. 4 runs in the 6th inning. Looks like we should be fine here with just a few innings to go. And indeed, our Orioles will win this game by the final score of 9-4. Every simcast game I've done today, we've won. Clearly, that's a sign. So we're obviously going to simcast Game 5. Justin Martin's on the mound as we scored 3 in the bottom of the 2nd, and we're not looking back. Justin Martin's with a great performance. We're going to keep him in a little bit longer. Going to try to go for the complete game, but no, it's not going to happen. So Benito Rosario comes in for the save. He finishes off the job. A great 8-inning performance from rookie Justin Martins, and we are in the ALCS against the Seattle Mariners, a team we beat last year in the playoffs. They still have Shed Long, who is going up in rating at like age 34. That's pretty cool. So we're going to simulate here. We split the first 2 games, win Game 3, win Game 4, win Game 5. So we beat them in 5, and we have a new foe in the World Series. It's not Atlanta, it's not Arizona, it's not Philadelphia. It's the Milwaukee Brewers. They have Shane Bieber in their organization, funny enough, but he is in the minor leagues. He doesn't even play. We're up 2-1 after losing Game 3. We win Game 4, and then we win Game 5. There you go. 6 in a row, an MLB record for the most consecutive World Series. Talk about a dynasty. Louis St. John won playoff MVP. Xavier again won World Series MVP, but it was not Xavier Edwards. Instead, it was Xavier Bowman. So a good way for St. John and Bowman to cap off each of their career seasons as we go to the final season of today's video. No retirements. So Lenny Lane, who's now like 45 years old, makes it through the entire video. I wasn't really expecting that. Nick Castellanos retires with borderline Hall of Fame numbers. I just figured I'd point that out. Trey Mancini, the original face of this team, also retires. It looks like he never really left the Padres. Never was great there, but always was consistently pretty solid. So sad to see him go without a ring as Freddie Freeman ends up making the Hall of Fame. He stayed as a Brave his entire career, unlike real life. Matthew Thompson is a free agent. Thompson has pitched well the past couple of seasons, but we have Max Meyer as our ace. I just don't think he's worth the money, so we are unfortunately going to let him walk. Certainly an interesting story with him. I wish him well, and he did win his Game 7 of a World Series a couple of years ago. Bobby Bradley with another team option, and again, I don't really want to let him go. Benito Rosario had a team option or a player option for $19 million, which he declines. So he is going to be a free agent looking for less money, but on a longer-term deal. I'm not going to give it to him for now, but I'm not opposed to going back to him in free agency. Matthew Thompson is the highest-rated player in the entire class at like a 95 overall or something. I ended up thinking about it for a little bit, and I did want to offer Rosario. I would be confident in our bullpen without him, but He's just too good, I feel like. So we're going to give him 2 years, $38 million. He is regressing a little bit, so I don't want to give him a super long deal, but he's still going to be very good for quite a few more seasons. I also wanted to dish out an extension here for Buford Wise, and it's worth noting that we only have 2 players up for arbitration, so we're going to have not a whole lot of our young guys become free agents within the next few seasons, which is worth noting. We do have some of our older players whose contracts are up soon, specifically Louis St. John, who only has 1 more year left, so we are going to extend him as soon as possible, which I guess I'll talk about a little bit more in just a few minutes. Matthew Thompson has yet to sign somewhere so far. I guess he's still probably getting a lot of interest. There you go. 9 years, $215 million from the Royals. So all of our former pitchers are getting big money here on the open market. First, it was Chris Bubich getting over $300. Now it's Matthew Thompson with over $200. He's going to be the ace in Kansas City for a while, I imagine, as we continue to simulate forward. Not a ton of our former players scattered throughout free agency, as we're going to make a small trade here for a good prospect in Alexi Quintana, just trying to clear up organizational roster spots. A team who had a pretty busy offseason was the White Sox. Make sure to look out for them. We've seen them in the playoffs for a couple seasons in a row. There's Marco Luciano of the Reds on kind of a bargain. 6 years, 63. I don't think that number is totally accurate. I think it's more than 63, but sometimes backloaded contracts, they aren't really accurate on the free agency graphic. So I think he is making a little bit more than that, but hopefully he does well in Cincinnati. It seems like Cincinnati is where all of our former players go, which is kind of funny and also kind of ironic because the Reds are one of the teams I'm considering for MLB The Show 22, which, by the way, shameless plug, make sure to go vote on the MLB The Show 22 poll if you have not already. This contract right here is my favorite, with the Milwaukee Brewers signing shortstop Jose Devers for $197 million. He pretty much got $1 million for every point in his batting average. He hit 199 last year. That's kind of funny. MLB The Show, with their logic of free agents, is not the smartest. It's all ratings-based. It's not at all production-based. So guys who are hitting under 200 can still make just under $200 million, which is kind of funny, but also kind of annoying because this game really is not the smartest. Continuing to simulate forward, Dominic Smith to the Blue Jays. That's an interesting one. Toronto has been pretty much a non-threat in our division. The Yankees have a big signing of Brock Strawn. He is really good coming from the Tampa Bay Rays, so he's going to stay in our division. Johnny Garcia to the Red Sox. We considered drafting him a couple years ago. Instead, obviously, picked Shane Kovaleski. So now Garcia is in our division. And then finishing off the job, a couple of the other guys are signing here in February. I believe Ian Happ signed. Yes, he did. He is now an Oakland Athletic. Ian Happ hit like 40 home runs last year. He's still really good. I'm going to trade Obi Yoshihito to the Giants. He's 33 years old. He hasn't gotten to pitch in the majors yet. He wouldn't with us, so I pretty much wanted to help him by letting him go to the Giants and pitch in the big leagues. Now we're going to re-sign Louis St. John. He's only making $13 million this season, but he's going to want the max. We're going to give him the max. 3 years, $93 million. That's $31 per season. And we're also going to re-sign Will Brooks for an additional season worth $6 million. So this is our lineup for the 5th and final season of the video. We still got Lenny Lanium there as a 61 overall. Really, for all of our old players, I'm going to try to keep them in the lineup as long as possible just so they can get those stats and milestones up. With Lanium, it's not as big of a deal because he's probably not going to get like 3,000 hits or 600 home runs because he started playing in the majors at 36 years old. But once we get to the end of the careers of guys like Louis St. John, those guys are going to still be in the lineup even when they're really bad. Here at the All-Star break, we're not doing as good as we were last year. We're 33-22, a game and a half behind the Blue Jays. Louis St. John is the favorite for MVP. What's new? He is continuing to dominate. In the month of June, we dominated. We're now 58-32 as we look at the All-Star teams. Benito Rosario makes it out of the bullpen, again, along with the other Will Brooks. That's going to continue to throw me off. Adley Rutschman makes it once again. Bobby Bradley is back. Louis St. John has made it all 5 seasons today. So in St. John's 9-year Major League career, he has made the All-Star team 8 times. Adrian Morejon, the former Oriole, is starting for the Dodgers in the NL. Morejon, ever since we traded him away, has been a beast. And the player who we got in that trade, Brusdar Graterol, ironically is back on the Dodgers. Heston Kjerstad with the Mets makes his first career All-Star team. That's pretty cool. As we are now going to simulate up to the trade deadline. Manny Miranda, broken hand, likely done for the season. So that's a pretty big deal. Here at the deadline, we're 67-34, 9 games ahead of the Toronto Blue Jays. I really don't feel like we have to make too many moves, but I did make this one, sending off Joe Gray to the Athletics for a couple of prospects, most notably a potential pitcher in Ken Rosa. Gray just doesn't play a lot. He's a backup, so I was willing to move on from him. We're going to simulate now to the end of the season. We ended up not doing all that well down the stretch. We did win the division, though, at 95-67. And we are going to play the White Sox in the first round as we take a look at our awards. Louis St. John won the MVP once again, the third MVP of his career, second in a row. Bobby Bradley, for a second straight season, was a finalist as he finished in third. Louis St. John now at 27 years old. Just look at his numbers. He currently sits at 1,500 hits and nearly 400 homers at 27. If he does not break Barry Bonds' home run record, I'm going to be very disappointed. At this point, I'd be shocked if he didn't break that record. I think the real question is if he's going to get to 1,000 or not. He's showing no signs of regression, as the rest of the lineup ended up doing pretty well too. So we look at the pitching. Our rotation was a little bit shaky. Justin Martins and Michael Haas at the bottom were our best pitchers. The bullpen was also a little bit shaky, so it seems like the pitching could be our kryptonite. As we take a look at this White Sox squad, they spent a lot of money on guys like Kendall Juste and Keyshawn Arsenio. Their rotation is pretty solid as well, so this should be a challenging series as we look for our 7th consecutive World Series championship, but we lose Game 1 and Game 2. Oh boy, we're in danger. We got to win all 3 of these next games to keep our consecutive World Series streak alive. We've got Hans Kraus on the mound here for Game 4, and we are dominating. It's currently 7-0. We are having no problems with the Chicago White Sox right now. We will be able to finish off the job, shutting them out in style. That brings us to Game 4 now. Ian Anderson on the mound. Again, he has history with us 5 years ago. Game 7 of a World Series with the Braves. Ian Anderson lost. We're currently down by 2. This is not going very well. We do score a run, though, but we need the bullpen to come up clutch. Now in the 8th inning, we're going to move a little bit slower as it's a 1-2-3 inning. In the bottom half of the 8th inning, the White Sox score a run. They're up by 2 here in the 9th. Our streak comes down to the bottom of the order, and we lose. 6 consecutive seasons with a World Series, but the streak is now dead. At least we can say we lost to the champions. The White Sox ran the table in the postseason with Alex Kirilloff winning playoff and World Series MVP. So as we conclude today's episode, I did want to take a look at some of our former players, see how they're doing. Ryan Mountcastle's a 61. Seems like his career is just about over, unfortunately. We are seeing some guys who are playing better since they left. Guys like Carmen Sixto, Heston Kjerstad, Marco Luciano, who have improved since they left our team. Edwin Diaz at 38 years old is really declining. Shane Bieber as well. It seems like those guys are pretty much done. Tristan McKenzie as well. It's crazy to see all these guys who were one point super young, and now they're on the verge of retirement. Shed Lonnie's been able to stay good for a while with Seattle. I wouldn't mind bringing him back towards the tail end of his career. Chris Bubich is still pitching pretty well, but really not worth $300 million. We've got guys like Colin Poche and Herman Marquez really starting to regress. Poche is a free agent. Christian Robinson as well. He never really totally panned out, along with Grayson Rodriguez, who outside of 1 year at the Giants has been quite bad for them. So we kind of dodged a bullet with letting Rodriguez go once we did. So that's going to conclude today's episode. If you guys enjoyed, let me know what you thought of the format here for the long-term sim. I think in the next episode, we're going to do a little bit more seasons, maybe like 7 or 8, try to go even faster. Only 2 more episodes left here of the long-term simulation. How many more World Series do you guys think we're going to win? How many home runs do you think Louis St. John will hit in his career? Is he going to break Barry Bonds' record? Is he going to go over 1,000? That might be shooting for the stars a little bit, but you never know. So I hope everybody enjoyed. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.